Welcome to another episode of The Last Word on Rugby. Sure, we've caught our breath. I hope you guys have as well after that magical display in Durban. We are looking forward to Twickenham and what the Boks can do on Saturday as they look to clinch back-to-back rugby championship titles for the first time ever. If you haven't yet, click that like button on our channel, The Clutch, subscribe, and then also share this video as we bring you the latest rugby news from South Africa, specifically this week focusing on the Boks and what they need to do to beat Argentina to get those three more tries than them at Twickenham for that bonus point win and for them to seal that title. With me today, Mike Greenaway, John Goliath. Guys, I think we have calmed down from the past weekend's win. I don't know about you guys, but I lapped up every moment of that game. The grind in
Yeah.
that first half and then getting into the groove in the second half. Mike, as someone who experienced the almost near
Yeah.
capacity Kings Park Stadium
Yeah,
on
guys,
Saturday,
I was
what
privileged
was that?
to be there in the thick of it. Nearly 50,000 people there, sold out stadium. Wow, I've covered so many games in my 30 years as a independent media rugby writer at Kings Park. The only game I can think of to rival the atmosphere was the 1998 a game where the Springboks beat the All Blacks after being 23-5 or something down.
Comeback,
And then
yeah.
they had that fantastic comeback. James Dalton got the debatable try that clinched it at the end. But wow, Kings Park is a stadium where you're quite close to the action. And when they have a full house and there's a lot happening, it really is difficult to beat the atmosphere there. And wow, I was trying to write a match report, and in a match report, you write about stuff that's happening in the game, but there was just so much happening in the game that eventually I was like, just running out of pages, if you like, if we can put it that way. There was just too much to say. It was
Your
hard
match
to
report was almost
concise
800
report.
words. It was almost 800 words. I'm like, yo, these subs are gonna kill us.
And John, you had to sub that, so you know what I'm talking about. I mean, if you describe everything that happened in that
Hmm.
match, I mean, it goes on for hours.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, a great place to be.
And it's also the Kings Park hoodoo, Mike. It's been
Yeah,
a real thing over the last 10 or so years. The defeat to Ireland last year. If
yeah.
you think about that defeat to Argentina in 2015, Kings Park hasn't always been sort of the best place for the box to go to.
No, and it's also the ground where I unfortunately witnessed um, the British and Irish Lions winning a series there, and that was when Jeremy Guscott kicked that drop goal.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so no, for sure, Kings Park has not been kind to the Springboks, but yo, that performance there was one for the ages on last weekend.
Yeah,
Speaking about,
it
yeah,
was
speaking,
brilliant. If I can just come here in the elite in terms of what we saw in that first half, the Springboks maybe shooting themselves in the foot a couple of times. And then that second half was just breathtaking. And it's been the second week in a row or second test match in a row where the Springboks in the second half has just been
Mm.
irresistible.
yeah. Yeah, and speaking about that performance, guys, I mean, Sasha Feinberg and Ngomezulu, like the just amazing that test performance he put in. But thanks to a pack of forwards that grinded it out. I mean, Jasper Wiese again, brilliant. Peter Steph de Toey, Eben Etzebeth, Siya Kolisi, you can name them up. The entire pack. Brilliant putting up that platform from which the box could go and work. Despite that yellow card before halftime, I mean, they still fought back to get back into the game, and it just shows that this looks like a team that is not going to give up anymore. They didn't just accept that they scored a try and we're gonna kick off and allow them to kick out and we can go plan in the sheds for the second half.
I think
Yeah,
it's been
so,
uh,
sorry, John. If we're talking about Sasha, we all saw the tries that he scored. We saw his sublime kicking. We saw his skills. Those were very evident. I thought there was a moment in that game which I felt was even more important than anything he did with his dazzling feet and hands and so on. Was when you're talking about that when Malcolm Marx gave
Got
away
the yellow.
that try.
Mm.
There was still apparently 4 seconds on
Yeah.
the clock, and Sasha went to the ref and said, "Huh, no, I want those 4 seconds. Don't blow
Yeah.
for halftime. I want those 4 seconds." And he took those 4 seconds and manufactured a magnificent try out of them. And that tells me that this is a young man with supreme self-confidence. I'm not
Mm.
saying arrogance, I'm saying
Yeah.
confidence.
mm.
And for all his great skill set, his physical skill set, his most important attribute is his mental strength. And we saw that when he said to the ref, don't blow. I want that 4 seconds. And he took that 4 seconds and he scored.
Yeah, Mike, you completely right. His mentality is just
Mm.
on another level when
Yeah.
it comes to believing in himself and also believing in his ability to execute. And because the box needed somebody to take that game by the scruff of the neck. And he did it. That try before halftime just showed his class. But also, people say before the game there was somebody, former Shark player, who said he's windgat, and he's gonna cost the box the game. But he's not windgat. If you go back, there's a video of him as a 13-year-old where after a season playing for Bishops, just thanking everyone, thanking the
Mm.
coaches for the season, thanking the
Yeah.
players. And it's maturity, man, at that
Mm.
age is
100%.
we already saw that. And then this is a new generation of rugby players coming through
Yeah.
where these guys have come up and it's not where a lot of guys started in the amateur era where they went to play on a Saturday, knuckle down. But this is the new generation of rugby players who actually, the guys comes through the systems, but they are ready, man, to perform, take
Mm.
charge, and play. And that is what who he is, and his mentality is what has brought him to this level where he is now, and it's gonna take him even further. I mean, there's been a lot of debate over the last week comparing him with the great Dan Carter. He's not quite there yet, but on the evidence of what we've seen over the last 2 years, I think this kid could be one of the all-time greats, not only of South African rugby, but in world rugby. He's already got the skill set. Mike said he's got the mentality. And from there on, with the coaching backups he's got at the Stormers, John Dobson, which gives him the freedom to perform, Rassie
Mm.
Erasmus giving him the keys to Kings Park on Saturday. The world
Mm.
is his oyster. He's only going to get better.
Yeah, yeah. I have to agree with you on that. There's been a lot of and my stance on this is there's been a lot of comparisons between him and this one and that one and that one. Allow the boy to be himself. Allow Sasha to play Sasha. He is not going to kick you five drop goals in a semi-final or a
He
final.
can. He
He
can.
can, but he's not going to. The player that he is, he's not going to. He's
Yeah.
he's going to be that guy who's gonna say, "Ref, 4 seconds, 4 seconds," and he's going to kick it off into the Sky Knight. He's going to allow his forwards to retrieve that ball. Um, They're gonna make the yards, and if he sees it's on, he's gonna be the guy to take that ball up, step through a couple of defenders, and go score that try, one that they crucially need. I mean, he broke the South African record for test points. Not by playing like Percy Montgomery, who held the record previously, not by playing like uh whoever was there before him, Yanni de Beer or whoever. He
Morne
played like
Steyn
he can
against the
play.
All Blacks.
Morné Steyn against the All Blacks, he played like he can play. And that brought that tally and that complete team performance in that second half. It allowed the
Yeah,
Boks
and
to.
listen, sorry, man, if I can just add in something here. You know, a lot of what is going to happen with Sasha now is how he's managed. And of course, Ra Ra Rassie, Tony Brown, I mean, there's a lot of old heads there, experienced
Yeah.
heads he's going to be managed. But what I like about the selection for this week is Sasha starting again because
Mm.
Rassie hinted very strongly last week that he wanted to give Handré Pollard a go
Another role.
this
Yeah.
week in London. Um, but he put that on hold because of what Sasha did in Durban. And I think that is again very good man management because I mean when a guy has a blinder like that, you don't go put him on
Yeah.
ice. You
Yeah.
you 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 let
Keep
him
going.
fly. You let him keep going. And yeah, as I say, Rassie did say. Well, he hinted very strongly. He said that this game was one to bring Andre back, and he hasn't brought Andre back, and that is 100%. I think there would have been a rebellion if Sasha was
Yeah.
benched.
Yeah.
People would have taken to the streets. What are you doing, I see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that, but
It's
you know, Sasha is couldn't be in a better place in terms of personnel that surround him. I mean, the old
yeah.
heads, Sullivan,
100%.
they're all. I mean, he's not going to get. I don't know what that former Sharks player called him, Van. I don't think he is in a place where he will be
Yeah.
allowed to get to that point. Not that I think it's in his makeup, anyway.
Yeah. Guys, and and
And a
and
bit,
that's the lekker thing of Rassie as well. He would pull his players back in line when he sees there's something. He would
Mm,
pull them back in line, and he's got all the needles in his sewing kit to just burst the
yeah.
bubble and reel them into to step in line, and knowing that there's another task at hand that they have to go do this Saturday at Twickenham.
for me also, we talk about this mentality and not being Wingard. Um, I think in terms of where the Boks are going at this point with their game plan, that he is best suited to how they want to play, even if
Mm,
it's raining, because he's got that all-round skill set where his kicking ability. I don't think I've ever seen a South African player with that ability to find space, flat cross kicks. And it's because of his football background. I know his pops, and his pops is a big football fan, a big Chelsea fan, grew up in England. And he's also a magnificent footballer. And if you combine all that with his ridiculous running ability, I mean, he's so quick. He's got quick feet, and he's a big boy. He's not small. So often we saw him playing on that advantage line where normally a guy like Andre Pollard might be a bit deeper, but he's in the thick of the action. And when he's in the thick of the action, with his ability to pass both ways, with his ability to step and take a gap, his quick feet, and that ability to kick at cross kick, which Cheslin Colby scored, the opposition defenders don't know what's happening in front of them. So
Yeah.
you don't know the winger on the outside whether he must drop deep, whether there's going to be a behind the back play, or whether he's actually going to take on the line. And that is what I think what makes him so special. But more crucially, in this game plan, what makes him so key for the box.
Yeah, I have to step in there and just reel you in there in terms of that kicking and finding space because you can't discard Mani Libbok's left and right boot in terms of
No, for
those kicks.
sure. No, for sure.
So
between the two of them,
yeah,
we've got some of the best tactical kickers now because we like to go to the air as the
mm,
Springboks. They like to go to the air early because I don't think there's a team on this planet who can test for a high ball like the
yeah,
Springboks do.
Mm.
So that is the option. But also now the opposition doesn't know, do I drop back?
yeah,
Or do we front up here in front of the line?
mm,
Because there could be a kick, there could be out the back pass, there
yeah,
could be a flyer taking a gap himself. So the unpredictability those two brings is a feature for the box at the moment. And you
yeah,
could argue that if one of them played at Eden Park with the amount of
yeah.
interest the Springboks had in the 22,
Could
so
have
you
been
have to
so different.
question if the selection for that game was maybe correct because both Andre Pollard and Willie Leroux didn't cover themselves in glory that day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And if I can add, there was that moment that crossfield kick Sash put up to Chesney. Um, the Argentine player was not out of line when it comes to defense or whatever. It was just so accurate that he
Mm.
didn't know, must I full out run towards the ball and cover it, or is the ball coming
Mm.
down and I will be able to get it? And that's those traits that he and Mani possesses when it comes to those touches.
Yeah.
Touching on the high kicks also, he
Mm.
bombed the RGs with success, with success. Mani came
Yeah.
on. I mean, who kicks a up and under in almost just outside the 22-meter area to land 5 meters from the try line
Mm.
and the box recollect it and they go and score from it. So that's been brilliant to see, and I'm with you on this, John. Those two guys, between the two of
Yeah.
them, are definitely they are the way to go for the box at fly off.
Yeah, and Ethan, if I can just come in here as well, the stats tell a story, and the Springboks are currently kicking more than any other team in the rugby championship. But perception is reality, and the perception is not that they're a boring team that kicks all day. The perception is, wow, the Springboks attack and score tries, and they've scored 15 tries in 2 games. So it's what they do with the ball when they've kicked
Yeah,
and they've won it. And the tries that then result. That is what people remember, not that there was a lot of kicking before the try was scored. And yeah, just in terms of how the whole Springboks are structured now, I just want to kind of divert a little bit. Um, we've now had that 5-3 split on the bench for, I think it's the last 4 games. Um, and in the past, obviously the Springboks were famed for the bomb squad, 7-1, 6-2, whatever. Suddenly now we've got 5-3 game after game after game, and that reflects how the Springboks are evolving and how they want to play.
yeah.
Because you now want more backline players on the bench because you're attacking more. So the days of 7-1, 6-2 and
I would agree with Mike in terms of that point about having an extra back on the bench because we are playing this type of rugby. We saw what happened at Ellis Park, where the Boks ran out of gas because they ran the Australians off their feet, but they ended up
Yeah,
running themselves off their feet in
yeah,
that same game. But the slow poison has been unbelievable in that in the game against the All Blacks in Wellington and the game against Argentina and Durban, where the slow poison, and I think for me, an unsung hero of that pack has been Thomas du Toit, where he started the last couple of tests. And for me, a lot of people look at Wilco Low coming off the bench and this getting a quick scrum penalty because obviously Wilco's that powerful, that good. But you obviously have to set the platform for that assault in the second half with the
mm,
guys
yeah,
starting
yeah,
because it's not easy to get a scrum penalty from the get-go at the start of the match because
mm,
both packs are still fresh and it's basically a 50-50 ball at the scrum. So when Thomas the Toy, he's been doing that hard graft. He's been wearing him down because he's attacking every scrum in
Mm,
that first half.
Mm.
And then in the second half, and we've seen this the last couple of weeks, where the benches come on, they have just took off from that platform and just blown teams away.
And yeah, that's my thing also. Yeah, we can speak about the backs and them running everything like there's no tomorrow. But if the pack and you mentioned them, Thomas, Ox, Malcolm up front, Eben them, if they don't do that hard work, they don't put the grind in. There's gonna be no platform for Sash and the rest of the guys to make their magic. So another weekend to produce that. I know Rassi made minimal changes to the team.
mm,
Only one in the starting side with Oxy coming back to scrum. He'll be frothing at the mouth to sink
mm.
his shoulders into that Argentine front row. Yes, like well, the scrum was brilliant in Durban, so he will add that extra oomph to that.
The scary thing is this team is actually stronger than the one from Durban because now you've also got to deal with Grant Williams coming off the bench.
Mm.
And
Mm.
he, when the game gets loose in that second half with his running ability, it is
Yeah,
scary. It is really scary. Not for the Springboks though.
Yeah, and Leighton John, my feeling about this selection of Rassie is he is I'm going to suggest he is fielding his best possible team right now, and there are some big names outside of it,
yeah,
but he spoke about before the Durban game. He said it was a semi-final. Now he's talking about the game in London being a final. You
mm.
pick your best possible team for a final.
For a final,
You don't
100%.
kind of mess around and trial a few and experiment here and there.
Yeah,
And I do believe this is the best possible Springbok team at the moment. We can talk about maybe Kurtley Arendse coming back from injury and for Ethan Hooker, but I mean it's Ethan Kurtley. Look, I mean I think Kurtley would be the go-to man, but
yeah.
there's not really an issue there. I do think maybe Lote Jager when he's fully fit and not just coming back from injury possibly would be the first choice second row
France,
with
yeah,
Eben. But I mean, we're nitpicking a bit here. But
yeah,
I think this is the best possible Springbok team that Rassie can put on the field because he's calling it a final. So I mean, you
yeah,
don't mess around in a final.
yeah. Mike, I think you forgot about Edwell there. He's not going to be happy with you once you get back to the Sharks there and you chat to him. But there's another option at the wing that can just step in alongside the other three guys. And we haven't even touched on Mapimps, who's also outside of the
100%.
select.
Quite
Come on,
interesting.
so yeah,
Just a slight diversion to see that the Sharks have picked Edward van der Merwe at fullback for the game against the Dragons.
out.
So let's see how he goes there, and I hope he goes well because I mean we know Russie likes players who are versatile, but I
Yeah.
haven't seen Edward at fullback. But we're going to on Friday night, Sharks versus Dragons.
Ah, that's lekker. That's lekker. Interesting. Guys, before we switch over to a little bit of URC, we've chatted at length about the box, but I am going to put you on the spot this week. It's a crucial weekend for the box. They must win this one with three tries or more to that of Argentina for that bonus point. We would have never, I'm challenging you now, but we would have never said 16 Durban would happen. We would have been as close as possible. And I'm glad I did
Yeah.
not make us predict that one. But John, you can kick us off. What do you see happening at Twickenham looking at the box in Argentina and the box's record there?
Well, every time you make us predict, will
Yeah.
the box lose, eh? Um, yeah, I actually think they just need a win on Saturday to secure the rugby championship because the points difference at
Mm.
the moment is superior to that of New Zealand and Australia. So I think they just need a win, but I still think it's Twickenham, it's not Salta
Yeah.
or Mendoza or
Mm.
Buenos Aires. So I think it's gonna be the Box by about 20, and they're gonna celebrate some brandy in the cup on Saturday.
Yeah, guys, John, I think you're right with the points difference there. I just feel that a Springbok team that is treating a match like a final is a Springbok team that will not be defeated because we know when they're in that mentality, they know how to play finals rugby, if you know what I mean. I mean, we know what they
Uh,
did at the World Cup and quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, when they focus on just getting a result. And as Rassi says, this is a final for us. There's no team in the world can beat them, and Argentina will not beat them in London when the Springboks in this frame of mind. 20 points, John, I think that's about right.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you guys, but I also don't want them to focus on just getting the win. Um, they've shown what they can do, and I feel this is a box squad. The what 45, 47 guys that's in the mix. This is a box squad that can at any given time on any given day beat anyone, but they can also lose to themselves on any given day if they go off script and what they must not do. But I feel this weekend it will be another comfortable win. They should take this by between 15 to 25 points, I'd say. With that three extra tries bagged, they'll be hungry to score some tries. So hopefully they can do this and we'll see them lifting that back-to-back championship titles. Just quickly, guys. We started the URC. I mean, Leinster came down to Cape Town and they got a 0. They had less points than Samosa, like John always say. And the Bulls got off to I don't want to say like a shaky start, but only 13 points between them and the Ospreys up in Loftus. But Johan Ackerman, strong start to his coaching tenure up in Pretoria. The other two teams away games. Why are we starting so badly away from home, Mike?
Yeah, look, I can speak specifically for the Sharks. Wow, I look at that team, and the word makeshift comes to mind. Wow, yeah, they've got 16 injuries. They've got 11 players away with the Springboks. The Sharks are always going to be sluggish at the start of URC seasons, especially when they're playing starting overseas. I mean, if you look at who they've got, if they pick up a few injuries from there, then they're reverting to Currie Cup players. I actually thought they played quite bravely with the limited ammunition that they've got. Um, yeah, I mean, it was fairly close with about 10 minutes to go, and then obviously the Warriors pulled away. I think the Sharks will be better this week, and they're in Newport. They play the Dragons. Um, the Dragons came stone last year. If the Sharks lose this one and lose it without anything to sort of cling to, or they
Yeah,
don't lose with too much dignity, then I think that is a problem. But I've got a feeling they should beat the Dragons. But yeah, the Lions as well. Wow, I don't know where to start with the Lions. I think if they lose this week, man, I don't know. We talk about coaches being in the last chance saloon.
yeah.
I think I think the current Lions coach knows a lot of owners of last chance saloons. But yeah, they're a worry for me. The Lions are a big worry for me.
I mean, the Lions have got their own injury worries. We spoke
Mm,
about it last week on the pod about South African teams this time of the year. It's been a long year already.
mm.
Um, we've had the URC ending, Currie Cup starting, and then the URC starts again. So it's it's a long year of rugby, and that's why World Rugby has probably stepped in and said, "Hello, everybody's playing too much rugby at this point because it's unsustainable. Um, the bodies won't last." It will be interesting to see though how teams juggle,
Yeah, with 30
especially
games.
teams with Springboks.
Mm.
Because if you've got 13 to 15 international matches lined up, that's already half your quota
Yeah,
for your 30 matches. And how many matches do they play in the URC? It's also over about 30 games, if I'm not
Mm,
mistaken.
that's right.
So that's also a lot. So yeah, but in terms of probably the best showing of the weekend, and I was really surprised by this, was the Stormers.
yeah.
Mm,
Um, nobody saw that coming. I mean, Leinster don't have some of their big names here, but they still had a lot of Irish
mm,
A lot
internationals
of Irish
in
caps,
the
yeah.
in that team, and they were just blown away. Sorry for the pun, by the Stormers, who I think put in an incredible performance up front. That is the one area where I think they might come short this season. But a guy that really impressed me was Matongo in the
Yeah.
front row. That guy is powerful. That guy is powerful. And the Stormers scrum and their set piece, their line
That's
out,
it. Yeah.
because over the last few years, that's been their biggest Achilles heel, their lineout, and suddenly they're scoring lineout from lineout mode. So it's incredible performance by the Stormers, and shout out to John Dobson and Rito Klongwane, who's in charge of that department. They really stepped up last weekend.
Yeah, the big thing for them will be to continue with that on Friday night when they face the Ospreys, and then also for the Bulls to get that second win. They are almost on their international tour as well. So hopefully by then they get that side and they can pick up some wins at the start of the season. Guys, thanks for chatting rugby again. It's been lovely. We can rave about the box and how they performed for hours on end, but we'll have another proper game to get into next week as the international season takes a bit of a break after the final rugby championship tests on Saturday. Um, we'll be back next week. If you haven't yet, click that like button, subscribe to our channel. It's at the Clutch ZA. We are weekly on YouTube, but we also bring you the latest little bits of news with our shorts in our videos and things that go on around the rugby teams. But there's also some cricket, football videos that you can check out. Guys, I bid you farewell here and enjoy that game. It's going to be another action-packed weekend of rugby, starting with the Stormers on Friday as we head into the final round. Cheers for now.